The defending champion won't be in Rome, but there's still plenty to talk about when it comes to Tournament Week 4 in ATP Fantasy. Prices are about to shift on Monday when last year's Rome ranking points drop off. Some popular players are about to rise and fall in price, and if you time your switches right, you can really exploit the gaps. And of course in this video I'm breaking down every popular player, whether you should buy, sell or hold them. And we'll also look at the data for the next gen budget players who could break the game this week. I'll also cover all of the chip strategies you need for the final 3 weeks of the clay swing before everything resets. So let's serve it up. Welcome back to another video. This is Josh from Expected Aces, your edge in ATP Fantasy. And I thought we'd start by looking at who are the most popular players people are bringing in right now. So I looked back at my data from the Madrid final preview to see the ownership then compared to now, and you'll see these 4 players on screen, no surprise, are the most popular picks. So it's no surprise that all 4 of these players had a good run in Madrid. Sinner and Feast will square off in Friday's semi-finals in Madrid, and Casper Ruud and Rafael Jodar both made it through to the quarterfinals with very respectable runs. Pretty much all teams are going to have at least 2 of these guys. Most of you will have at least 3, I'm sure. These are becoming some of the template picks in fantasy. So let's take a look at the most popular players in the game right now and take a look at their points from Rome last year and their total points so far to see how they are performing. Not too much to say on Jannik Sinner, he's delivering again. That's already over 1,500 points and he didn't even play in Tournament Week 2. Hopefully he'll be okay physically. I think if it wasn't his home event, he might have been skipping it given his exertion in Madrid. But given that he really wants to win it and he's at home, I feel like he will play. João Fonseca, only 1% ownership increase from Tournament Week 2. And I think a lot of that was due to his tricky draw on paper. With the Jodar match being a first meeting, it's always going to be tough to call. He was slightly unfortunate that he hadn't played to that point either, given that Marin Cilic withdrew ahead of his round 2 match. So Fonseca was coming in pretty cold. But his attitude is really what cost him that final set. I definitely think it's going to be a keep right now. But again, it's going to be very draw dependent if people want to bring him in or not. He's already got a massive ownership anyway, and I think the draw just put people off. Certainly myself, I didn't want to bring him in for Madrid, especially with him now being seeded as well. But I've still got him in green because he's one of the best young talents in the game and he certainly costs 6 credits, and that's only going to rise. Artifice, whether you saw my video the other day on pricing exploits, he should be worth 27 credits at least right now, and he's only worth 8 at the moment. Criminally underpriced, one of the most informed players in the world. This 51% ownership is going to be well above 60%, I'm sure, come Roland Garros. I think he's also pretty draw-proof right now as well. I mean, we've seen again this week that he was easily able to take out who's in front of him. And he took out Musetti in Barcelona as well en route to the title. So I'm not even too concerned about who he faces in Rome. I think you bring him in if you don't have him. The 2 I've got in yellow here are Francisco Cirundolo and Lorenzo Musetti. Just a few question marks. Wouldn't be thrilled with Cirundolo's output as an owner. Very cheap right now, but a lot of you would have got him for 8 credits rather than 6. You've actually lost value on him. And it was disappointing to lose to Alexander Blockx in the last 16. That section really opened up. It was a big opportunity. We always said the third quarter of the draw was going to be the one to target, and he had a great chance to come through and didn't get it done. I think given how cheap he is and the fact you've lost money already, you definitely hold him, but I wouldn't be bringing him in right now despite the high ownership. And then with Musetti, it just hasn't quite happened for him yet. The data looks so strong. He played so well on clay last year. At his ceiling, we know he's the 4th best player in the world. Made the semi-finals of all the major clay court events last year. He's had some tough draws. Vacherot in Monte Carlo was a nightmare. Artifice in Barcelona again is a nightmare. And then Yuri Lehechka in Madrid, especially with those conditions, always serves massive. If he'd faced Lehechka in Barcelona or in Monte Carlo, it probably would have been a different story. But again, just another unfortunate draw. If you own him, I think you hold on to him again for at least another week because there aren't too many options you could go to around that price point. You could look at Koboli, you could look at Lehechka, but they're equally as risky in my eyes. But again, I wouldn't be advising bringing him in given that we haven't seen the points return to back things up yet. Only 248 points so far across these 3 weeks. He earned nearly double that in Rome last year alone. When we get to the next state of the most popular picks, the colour chart varies here. Just as a reminder, green in my eyes is bring them in no matter what. Yellow is hold them if you've got them, but I'm slightly hesitant on bringing them in. And then orange is I wouldn't personally buy them and I think they are a sell. We'll start with those in orange who I'm really unsure about. Valentin Vacherot with the Monte Carlo run. I always just wondered that given that it was at home and how emotionally charged it was, whether that was going to be an outlier. And again with Shanghai, was that just an outlier as well? Is he going to have these massive highs but not on a consistent basis? It's still slightly too early to tell. We're quite fresh from the Monte Carlo run. He didn't even play Tournament Week 2. But Madrid certainly didn't do a lot to change my mind on that. And he does still cost 9 credits. There are a lot better options at that price point, and the ownership's very high, so it's not even really a differential right now. So yeah, I would say that I'd be looking to move off of him for a different player, but I think that there are much better options at that price point, with Fils and with Blockx and Jodar and Fonseca. So unless you own all of those, I think he might be a sell this week. Rublev and Bublik are also very volatile. And Rublev obviously has gone big and gets that Barcelona final, but then the other 2 weeks he's really flattered to deceive. Because let's keep in mind that he's earned 382 points across these 3 tournaments, but over 350 of those came from Barcelona. So he's earned you around 30 points from the other 2, which is not good enough at 11 credits. Again, there's a really high ceiling there, but when are you going to be able to capture that? It's the same with Bublik as well. Played well in Monte Carlo and then has gone out in his first match in Munich and in Madrid. So they're all big question marks for me. I'm not keen on them as picks right now. And Matteo Berrettini, he's just gone back up to 2 credits today, given that he's involved in a challenger right now. But he's going to drop back to 1 credit on Monday. Doesn't look quite right. He's probably not a sell at that price unless you're using a swing switch chip. But if you're using that chip, then you definitely need to move him on and get someone else at that lower value price point. 16% ownership is very, very high. That is purely to do with how cheap he is, really. He wouldn't be that highly owned if he was 3 or 4 credits. And then for those in yellow, Etcheverry, Mensik and Tsitsipas all had very, very solid weeks in Madrid, all made it through to the last 16. Again, is that going to be their ceiling though, is my question mark right now. And at 6 credits, I think it's acceptable. And if Mensik could avoid a quarter that doesn't have Zverev or Sinner, then he might even have potential to go further than that. And then with Tsitsipas, who knows right now? I mean, it was an amazing week to have him. It was a great week to own him and watch him get back to sort of level we can see. So it's been the best we've seen him for a long time. Will that continue? Fingers crossed. But given that he's unseeded, it's going to be quite draw dependent on how far he can go in Rome and Roland Garros. And then again with Rafael Jodar, the only green on this list, bring him in. So in these early previews, I always like to do a little bit of a look at those who did well last year. I'll give you a bit of a name. Last time out it was reconjuring the Caja Magica. Now it's renewing their own romance. So these are 4 players that did very well last year. We'll start with Tommy Paul at the top. Semi-final run, 430 points. And he did win the title in Houston on clay earlier this season. So I was very much anticipating him making his actual ATP Fantasy debut here in Madrid. And it ended up with minus 14 points. So not great. Again, I'm wondering with the Medvedev situation with the double bagel, it's probably going to be an outlier in the grand scheme of things. Does it put me off going there right now? It does to a degree, but there is that upside there because he did so well last year and he only cost 8 credits. When I see him at 8 credits and compare that to Vacherot at 9 credits, I'd rather go Tommy Paul right now because he's got the receipts, he's had those previous performances, and he's only at 6% ownership as well, versus 25% ownership, so a massive differential. He's definitely one to keep an eye out when we see the draw on Monday. And Hurkacz has to be a green again, still only 3 credits, 6% ownership, 286 points in Rome last year on the way to the quarterfinals. He was seeded last year as well, keep that in mind. He's not going to be seeded this time, so on one hand, potentially tougher draw, on the other hand, upset bonus potential like we saw in Monte Carlo. Tad unlucky to get Musetti in round 2 in Madrid. Again, if he can avoid a top 16 seed in Rome, then who knows how far he can go. 258 points already this season as well, despite that second round exit to Musetti. At 3 credits, that's amazing value. And then with Mute and Menard, Mute is going to be seeded this year most likely, so there's less upside. And 6 credits is very expensive when you consider, as I keep saying, Fonseca and Jodar and Hurkacz, all cheaper or the same price. And then Menard got upset wins over Ben Shelton and Sebastian Korda, who were both seeded last year, so he's got very good memories here. But he's just coming back from injury, we're not really sure quite where he's at. Hasn't delivered points yet so far in ATP Fantasy, and I think 5 credits is just a touch too much. Now we have the premium punts. These are the expensive players who all have 10% or less ownership. Novak Djokovic, will he make his ATP Fantasy debut? Right now it's still on the cards. 1% ownership. He is 30 credits, but Alcaraz is out, so the cash is there to spend. And if you're someone who doesn't want to bring in Alexander Zverev, then he might be your differential replacement, going for Djokovic at 1% versus Zverev at 25% and 3 credits more. So if he plays, and if the draw looks favourable, he'll be the biggest differential in the game given his ceiling and such low ownership. I've also put Ben Shelton in yellow. Lost to Prizmic in Madrid, it was a shock defeat. But I feel like on another day, they was to turn that around. We know his potential, we know how good he's been on clay, we saw how good he was in Munich as well. But again, I'm not clamouring to bring him in at 24 credits. Not really feeling it with the other three on screen here. I mean, I was very hot on Felix Auger-Aliassime in the final preview for Madrid, given how good the draw looked. But then Alexander Blockx came along. And although he made the Madrid final in the past, he had a very favourable draw back then. I'm still not quite sure how good he is on clay and how much of a threat he'll be when he is supposed to be, that third seed. I think he's too expensive right now when you've got Shelton for 3 credits less, or Djokovic or Zverev for a little bit more. So I think he's in the void right now. And then Dimonor and Medvedev have been on my transfer out list the past few weeks in all my videos. I just don't see it with them right now. They're not in the greatest place, especially Dimonor. Medvedev made the last 16 in Madrid, very respectable. But at 17 credits, I don't think that's enough. And then with Dimonor, he just looks pretty shot for confidence right now. And another bad draw could see his price tank even further. And finally, the next gen list, players who are 22 years old or younger. And we've got to talk about Alexander Blockx. He is now a Masters 1000 semi-finalist. He was my dark horse in the third quarter in the Madrid preview, so I'll give myself a little bit of a pat on the back there. I did say he is one who could come through. I've been big on him since his run in Monte Carlo. He's really putting it together now. I will confess that I have already bought him in ahead of Rome. I bought him before he closed out his win against Francisco Cirundolo in the last 16, because he was only 3 credits then. So I've enjoyed a very nice double price rise. He went to 4 credits when that match finished, and he went to 5 credits the day after he beat Rude. So I've gone early and got the rewards. He could rise even further as well this week, so I'm very happy to have him. And I might not even play him in Rome, I just want to have him anyway to build that value on him, and he's got such a good ceiling. The serve is great, it's going to be a threat on grass as well. Just really happy to have him in the team. And 5% ownership is crazy. Now he is a semi-finalist, I think the ownership is going to skyrocket. Not quite Jodar levels, but I reckon will be between 12 and 15% come the Rome deadline. Because look at it, it's 554 points and counting at 3 credits, which is what he was the rest of the week and before the Madrid deadline. The best points per credit return in the game. If you've got the budget or you're selling one of your players in the 6, 7 to 8 credit range, then I think he is your guy, assuming you've already got Jodar. If you're choosing between the two of them, then I would go for Rafael Jodar right now, but it is very, very close. I also want to spotlight Medjedovic and Ethan Quinn, both at 3 credits, both barely any ownership. Medjedovic did really well in Munich, got 292 points there. Obviously hasn't played in Monte Carlo or Madrid, but now he gets to play in this Masters 1000 event, having played so well in Munich. With a good draw, he could do what Blockx has done here in Madrid or what Jodar did in Barcelona. He can be that guy. And when it comes to Ethan Quinn, he could be the guy as well. He's already ticked away at getting some points this season at a very cheap price point. So they're my 2 picks for who could be dark horses and their budget game breakers in Rome. Obviously draw dependent. There are a few others I wanted to highlight that I personally wouldn't bring in yet, but they are still on my radar. We'll start with Dino Prizmic. He came through qualifying for the first time to reach the Masters 1000 event, and he grabbed the opportunity with both hands. First round he breezed past Matteo Berrettini, and then he goes and knocks out Ben Shelton in the second round. Amazing performance, and then he takes the first set against Etcheverry as well, and on another day he wins that one. So great run, only 2 credits, 1% ownership, 86 points for his efforts there. Definitely on the radar as a player on the up. And then we've also got Alejandro Vallejo, 2 credits as well, 0% ownership. He also came through qualifying and got wins over Dimitrov and Lernatin. 94 points for his efforts. So again, another one very much on the rise on the watch list. Merida is only in qualies for Rome, so you can't look to bring him in yet. Mickelson was seeded last year, which is why he's got a minus 26 points. And then Landaluce hasn't worked out yet. Obviously, we know what he's capable of after his run in Miami, but it hasn't translated to the clay yet. So I think it's too early for him. So I think Alexander Blockx is a player you bring in now. And I think Medjedovic and Ethan Quinn, if the draw looks good, they could be the breakout star in Rome. So, projected price rises. You guys have been really enjoying this content I've been putting out posts daily on X in the morning to tell you what price rises and falls are going to occur that day based on results. And this is a bit of a heads up. This on screen now is all factoring in what their price is going to be on Monday morning once the ranking points drop off from Rome last year. So on the left hand side, I just want to go through and acknowledge what could happen over the course of the next few days in Madrid. So you'll see here we've got Caboli, Fils and Blockx. These are the only players still involved that could rise even further in price than projected. So Caboli is currently 13 credits. Stay at 13 credits on Monday. But if he goes all the way and wins the title in Madrid, then he will be 17 credits on Sunday. With Artifice, he currently costs 8. He will stay at 8 credits come Monday unless he wins the title. Then we could be looking at all the way up to 11 credits if he is the winner in Madrid. And then Alexander Blockx, he rose to 5 credits today. That is where he will be on Monday. But if he wins his semi-final, he'll go to 6 credits. And if he wins the final, he'll rise to 7 credits. So these maximum prices on the left, they will come into effect on Sunday if they won the title. Looking on the right-hand side of the screen, these are projected price rises for Monday morning. So Bublik costs 14 right now, but he will rise to 15 no matter what on Monday morning when the Rome ranking points drop off. So if you want him, bring him in by Sunday night. And then with Lerner Team, he will rise from 7 to 8 on Monday morning. And Thomas Martin Etcheverry will rise from 6 back to 7 on Monday morning as well. Looking at price falls, so Lorenzo Musetti will fall from 15 to 14 credits on Monday. Him and Alexander Bublik are swapping positions basically when Musetti's semi-final points drop off. Tommy Paul will lose his semi-final points, so he'll drop from 8 to 7 credits. Casper Ruud also had a good run to the quarterfinals last year, so he'll drop from 7 back to 6 credits. So if he's on your watch list, wait till Monday for the draw and you'll get him cheaper again. Jack Draper was a quarterfinalist. He will drop from 4 to 3 credits on Monday. Stefanos Tsitsipas had a few points to defend, so he'll drop back from 3 to 2. And Matteo Berrettini just got back to 2 credits today, but he'll drop back to 1 once his 40 ranking points from Rome drop off on Monday morning. For chip strategy, I've had a lot of questions about this on Reddit this week. If you still have all 3 of your chips remaining, remember you need to use them because they do reset in the grass court swing. So they're there to be used. Make sure you use them because you will get them all back. If you've got all 3, I would say play your alternates chip in tournament week 4 because you've got a good baseline of points, 10 points plus. 10 points if you lose in the first round, higher upside thereafter. I would use your swing switch chip in tournament week 5. So not only can you then field a team of 6 that are all going to play in Hamburg and Geneva, because there are going to be a lot of high profile withdrawals, but at the same time, while Rome is going on, it gives you a nice chance to play the market a little bit and catch some price rise and falls. So for example, I plan on using my swing switch chip in tournament week 5. So while Rome's going on, I'm going to probably take Sinner out, knowing that I'll bring him back in at the end. But you have 8 free switches. I'm not going to need to use all 8 to bring in players for tournament week 5. So I will use Sinner as a bit of a trading chip in the early days in the tournament and try and catch some price rises by bringing in players, selling them, bringing in more players. And again, if you follow me on X, I'll give you the daily summaries each morning of who could rise in price and fall in price that day, so you can go and get ahead and start to trade. And then finally, if you've got your triple bounce chip, you must wait to play it in Roland Garros in tournament week 6, because that is your highest ceiling. That's an extra 2,000 points if you go for Yannick Sinner and he wins the tournament. You can't get that kind of upside anywhere else. It's the most powerful chip in the game. So if you have it, use it in tournament week 6. If you don't have a triple bounce chip, but you've still got one of your other 2, definitely also play that in tournament week 6 because that's your highest upside. That's your biggest week. If you're using the alternates chip, they've got the highest floor and obviously much higher point returns as they scale throughout the rounds. And if you're using a swing switch chip, you can pick the best 6 players with the best draw for Roland Garros. So if you have triple bounce, play at Roland Garros. If you don't, play one of your other chips at Roland Garros. If you've got 2 or 3, then look to follow this structure on screen here. A couple of news items, as I'm sure you guys know, Carlos Alcaraz is sadly out for the rest of the clay court swing. Obviously, in general, this is really, really disappointing news, and it's also got a lot of unfortunate ATP Fantasy implications as well. Number one, if you already played your triple bounce chip, it's been a bit of a disaster because Yannick Sinner is now even more likely to win the French Open. So everyone who's got that chip is going to play it on him at Roland Garros and maybe get an extra 2,000 plus points from that. So it's really going to damage your rank. It's even more brutal when you consider it would have been a bit of a split going into Roland Garros, because if they were both playing, then it's like, okay, which one do you bonus ball, and then which one, and then who do you give triple bounce to? There would have been a bit of a split. There would have been massive margins. Because if you went and played your triple bounce on Alcaraz and Sinner won the tournament, that'd be a massive, massive point swing. But now we don't have that edge, we don't have that drama and jeopardy now, which is a shame, I think, for the game overall. On a more positive note, it does now open up budget. So now it's a decision of, do you go for another premium pick or do you spread that 36 coins for a deeper squad? And it does make players like Zverev and Djokovic more viable now. And there could be differentials, so that people could actually now go for Djokovic or go for Auger-Aliassime or Ben Shelton alongside Yannick Sinner. So we might see some more unique drafts rather than just having... So it does make it less template rather than being like, okay, here's my team for the French Open. It's Sinner, Alcaraz, Jodar, Fils, Blockx and Fonseca, or Cirundolo and Fonseca. So there is a bit more variation there when you start throwing in people having Djokovic, or Zverev, or Ben Shelton. So that is one positive, but overall it's very disappointing and very unfortunate for those of you who've already played your triple bounce chip. And Jack Draper is also out for the rest of the clay swing, and this means that he's going to go all the way down to likely 1 credit come the grass court swing, which obviously is going to be insane value for them, because we know this time last year he was a 27 credit player. So if he gets to the grass swing and he's at 1 or 2 credits, his ownership's going to be massive because there's no downside to owning him. Why would you not own him at that price? Because it's all upside. So I think, in the grass, I think we might be looking at a 50% plus owned Jack Draper at 1 or 2 credits. Insane value. So that's exciting. Obviously very concerned for this injury. It's not looking good, but I'm really hoping that he's taking all this extra precaution, taking all this time off so that he can be in the best possible place and injury-free for the grass swing. I mean, I can't wait to bring him in and own him if that's the case. So hopefully positive signs to come here for Jack. So that's it for the first look at Rome. Lots to be excited by. Please do join the conversation. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Comment on this video. Join our subreddit. Follow me on socials, especially if you want to get the price rise and fall information. And just to update you on how my week's going so far in Madrid, we now have live ranking updates, which is great. You will see that I'm now ranked at number 783 in the world, which I'm very happy about. I was at around 2.1k coming into this week. It's gone really well for me, I can't lie. Everyone in my starting 6 made the last 16 or better. The alternates chip was a disaster. I should have waited till next week. But it is what it is. But the other 6 in my squad did really well. Tsitsipas is back. I brought in Jodar. I've got Sinner and Fils going head-to-head, so I've got a guaranteed finalist. Hopefully Zverev also makes the final. I've bought in Blockx early now as well to get price rises. It's all looking pretty good. And I'm very happy to be ranked inside the top 1,000 as well. We believe that there's around 25,000 ATP Fantasy players right now. So if you're wondering what a good rank looks like overall in the long run when the season comes to an end, usually in fantasy sports games, a really good rank would be considered to be the top 10%. So in our case, you'd be looking at to finish inside around top 2,500. Those who finish in the top 1% are considered to be, elite players. So if you want to be an elite player, you're looking at trying to finish inside the top 250 right now. Obviously, there'll be more players joining throughout the season, so these guidelines will shift a little bit, but right now, if you're a very engaged player, you're watching these videos, then your target should be trying to get a top 2,500 finish, or hopefully with my helping hand, a top 250 place finish, so you can be a top 1% ATP Fantasy player. That's all for this video. I've been Josh from Expected Aces, your edge in ATP Fantasy, and I'll see you again on Monday for a look at the Rome draw. Very excited for that. Bye for now.